Hello, I'm Sam, and welcome to this RayWenderlich.com screencast. Today we're going to take a look at the new service extension that's part of the user notifications framework inside iOS 10. Before that, let's just have a quick review of what remote notifications are and how to get them going in iOS 10. I've set this running up on my iPad over here. You can see it mirrored to the screen. And if I send a push notification, then you can see you get a fairly standard behavior, and because we've set the category, then this is a particular category, then we get the options on there. So how do we go about setting that up? It's really quite simple these days. So over in capabilities, you may need to make sure that push notifications is enabled over on the right hand side there. And then if we jump to the app delegate, that was right, app delegate. There we go. Jump into the app delegate. There's a couple of things to do here. This has been the same since iOS 8. You need to make sure that you register for remote notifications. Call that method on application. Do that some point probably in did finish launching with options. And then you need to implement a couple of delegate methods. The first one would be did fail to register for remote notifications with error. Now you need to check this to make sure that it's worked. And in fact, if you try and run this up on a simulator, then remote notifications, push notifications aren't supported on the simulator. So you will get an error here. The other one is the did register for remote notifications with device token. This will get called if it's managed to register for notifications, and it will give you that device token that you will then require to send push notifications. Here I'm just printing it out so that I can use it in the Pusher utility app. You also have to go through a load of faff building TLS certificates and making sure that you register that with APNS and then that you sign your APNS requests. All of that stuff has been covered many, many times before. It's not nearly as difficult as it used to be. Okay, so one of the new things that we can do inside iOS 10 with this notification is at the moment we're just sending this alert. We're just sending this alert that appears over at the top here. But in iOS 10, you can send much more fully formatted descriptive type of alerts. We can send the title, subtitle, body, plus some other fields as well. So let's just see what that would look like if I implement that. So if we jump back over to the alert here, paste that in. So we've added the title, a subtitle, and a body, and now you must make sure that you implement the body. If I now push that notification, there you go, you can see that we've now got the title at the top, then the subtitle both appearing in a heavier font, and then the body appears as it does before. However, something else that you can add to iOS 10 user notifications is the ability to add attachments. And you remember that an attachment is just an image or some kind of video or something like that, and then the system will go ahead and display that for you in a really nice way. However, a push notification has a limit of 4K. You can't send very many GIFs in 4K. So what can you do about it? Well, that's where the new service extension comes in. We can add whatever custom fields we want to the push notification payload. So here I'm adding this one called attachment URL, which is giving me a URL where I can find the image that I want to add as an attachment to this push notification. However, this is non-standard. I've just made this up, and there is no standard way to provide a URL for a push notification to download an attachment. Instead, you need to use a service extension to go in and grab that URL and download the file and then add that to an attachment. So let's take a look at how to do that. First up, we're just going to jump in and add a new target to our application, and that's going to be this notification service target. If we add that, and we'll call it the service extension, and we'll go ahead and activate it. Let's take a look what that's added. So inside the service extension, we've got two new files. We've got an info plist, and everything in the world needs an info plist, and then a notification service Swift file, which is a subclass of UN notification service extension. I'm just going to re-indent this. Move that out of the way. UN notification service extension has two methods on it that we can call. And in actual fact, the template that Xcode generates for you straight out the box is pretty good in this sense. It gives you a good template for getting started. The two methods, one of them is did receive request with content handler. That's when a push notification arrives. That's giving you a chance to attempt to modify the content. So you can do what you like, and then you call back the content handler closure that you get given with the updated content. It'll then replace that in the notification request and then deliver it. You get a limited amount of time in which you can do this, and down at the bottom here is this service extension time will expire. That's your last ditch attempt to kind of clear up or to go ahead and execute the content handler with whatever you've managed to do so far. Otherwise it will just bail out and show the original message that arrived in the first place. So with that bit of background, how do we go about doing this? What we're going to do is take what it's doing here is pulling out the content and making a mutable version of it, which is what we want. We're just going to take out what it does at the moment, which is, you can see it just appends the word modified to the title. Take that out, and we're going to try and find out, have we got that URL field that we added to the push notification payload? If we have, let's go ahead and download it. So let's do another if let, attachment string, and this comes from the content, user info, and we called it, I believe, attachment-URL. And we want to cast that as a string. If we've managed to do that, let's go full hog and try and turn that into a URL, attachment URL, and that would just be a URL, string, and the string type is going to be attachment string. There we go. So if we've managed to do that, we've now got the URL of the thing we want to download. And then it's just kind of standard NSURL session download stuff. So let's grab a session, not a session. I'll grab a URL session with a configuration. We'll go with the default configuration. So URL session configuration, go for the default one. And then we need to make the download task. So we'll make a download task. And you grab those from the session. A download task, and we'll go for this one here that takes a URL and gives you a completion handler. It means it's a lot easier. We don't need to go ahead and create any delegate methods or anything. Now the URL we called attachment URL. Excellent. And the completion handler. Now this URL that we get here, this is the location of the downloaded file on disk. This is the response that at the moment I don't really care about, and then there's an error as well. As we know, we always care about the errors. So this gets called when the download is completed. And if there's an error, then we should do what all good apps do and just print it out. Error downloading attachment. And then, we will include the localized error description because we are really good, and we won't bother doing any attempt at recovery or anything. That'll do until I write demo apps. Else if let, what do we want now? If we actually have the payload and it's managed to download the URL, then let's unwrap that. Now we've got this URL, so this is pointing to the thing we've managed to download on the disk, then we can create an attachment from that. We go attachment. This just uses the UN notification attachment. This takes an identifier, which will go for attachment string, the downloaded URL, and then options. Now, you don't often need options. What you want to put in this options here is, if it's going to be unable to work out what file type you've downloaded, you need to tell it here, or as the constant references, give it a hint, which is what we're doing here. We're giving it a hint key. It uses the file extension to work out what file type it is. And when you download something, you don't necessarily get the file extension on there that you would expect. So here, I'm going to go in there and tell it, this is the exact file. In order to do this, I need to import the file types framework, which is mobile core services. And the type I know is going to be KUT type PNG. Now this information is available to you in the response that I decided I didn't care about. So you can do this yourself. You don't have to go about it in this way. And then we've created the attachment. Then let's set that on the attachments property of the updated content. Why Why don't we get a... anyway, there we go. Now that we've done that, so whether or not we got an error, whether or not we managed to do anything, we do now need to call the completion handler. Content handler even. Content handler with the updated content, which is called best attempt content. And that'll go back and say, right, this is what I've managed to do. And then something I always forget to do, and that is to resume a download task. So let's just pop that in there. And that's everything that we need to do. So we've extracted the URL, we've downloaded the image from that URL, we've created a new attachment for it, we've added that to the content and then passed that back to the system so that it can go ahead and deliver it. So what happens if we build and run this now? So I'm just going to build and run it on the CuddlePix app. If we jump back over here and see the app launching. There we go, and this is the attachment URL. This appears in the user info dictionary, so if I push this, it should work, right? Well, we've got the delivery, but we don't have the attachment. Why is that? Well, this comes down to a new field inside the APS dictionary, inside your APNS message, and that's called mutable content. So mutable content. And this we're going to set to 1. The point of this is I can decide when I'm pushing my notification, should it go through a service extension that I have associated with my app. If this is false, which is the default, then it won't go through your service extension. If I push that now, you'll see that now it's downloaded that image, it's cropped it for me and put it into a tiny little box. It's worth mentioning again that this is iOS 10 Beta 1, so I'm not getting the expanded view, the custom content interpretation, because I don't have 3D Touch on my iPad. That will be changing in a later seed, so this will give you exactly the same functionality that you'd expect from a local user notification. That just about wraps it up for what you can do with these service extensions inside the user notifications framework. There's some really cool stuff. You can download attachments. Another option or another use case that was presented was the ability to do end-to-end encryption. I could add an encrypted message to this, and my service extension could go ahead and decrypt that, thereby meaning that everything is completely secure from the point that I send the notification to the point that the app receives it. I hope you've enjoyed this screencast. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll catch you again later. Bye-bye.